Guys, so I want to thank you for taking the time to check out today's video. So you'll have to bear with me a little bit because my voice is kind of off because I've been sick here recently. So that's why I sound a little weird. Hopefully I can get through this without coughing or anything, but I'm fine. It's just I have allergies, and I think it's a combination of stress and allergies is the reason why I got sick. But hopefully I'll be better pretty soon. Likely within the next week, I should be back to normal. But thank you guys for, of course, again, taking the time to, listen to what I have to say and watch these videos. I'm really appreciative of that. I enjoy discussing these things with you guys, and I know that you guys have really voiced a lot of your opinion on these topics. So I really, again, like with your comments, I really do appreciate that. And what I want to talk about today, I feel like is pretty relatable to a lot of us. And I think, for me, it was a really big thing that I noticed throughout my entire journey of being a gay man. And what I want to discuss today is on internalized homophobia. And I don't know if a lot of you guys have heard of that term. You likely have. But what internalized homophobia basically means is where you are pretty much trying to internalize a lot of the negative, sort of anti gay messages that you've grown up around or that you've heard. It could be from people, it could be from even media like TV and things of that nature, or it could just be from, growing up, if you've been in a religious household, it could be that. So, the reason why I want to discuss this is I think this is a very damaging concept, and it's something that I dealt with a lot. And I really believe, again, it's contributed to a lot of my mental health issues that I had or that I've had throughout my entire life because I still deal with this a lot of times because I grew up with those messages of negativity when it come to anybody who was gay, was LGBTQ. And again, even though, I'm kind of in a time or, I grew up in more of a time that was accepting, it still has been very hard for me. Because again, like I mentioned, I was born in 95. So if you kind of go and look at some of the messaging in a lot of media in, the late 90s or early 2000s, it was slowly sort of shifting in the approach of how gay people were portrayed. And some examples of that has been in a lot of different shows that I've actually watched. I've watched basically a lot of different early 90s shows on HBO Max here recently. And I had a recommendation from somebody that told me to watch a show called 6 Feet Under. And then I've been watching another show that's based off a play that's on HBO as well, Angels in America. And both of these shows came out, well, these are early 2000s shows. But the reason why I mentioned that, late 90s as well, is that American Beauty was again a show that brought really kind of encouraged me to come out here recently because I didn't watch that movie. That's not a show. That American Beauty is a movie, not a show. But I didn't watch it until just like a year or so ago. So I had kind of been going back recently and watching a lot of those TV shows or anything that was sort of gay related that I tried to avoid. And that's another internalized homophobia thing that I recognized a lot when I was going back into church over the past few years is I would try to avoid any basically any kind of openness of being gay on TV. I would try to avoid any show that represented any kind of portrayal of gay people whenever I came back living in Tennessee. Anything like that, I would shut it off. If it had anything gay in it, I would have to shut it off. I did that a lot of times. And one thing I noticed here recently when I went back into watching those shows that I wouldn't watch, it was like a relief. It was like I could actually just relax and not have to worry about what was in those shows, you know. And I was just, you know, again, that's one thing you do when you're around a lot of that messaging. And again, like I've mentioned, you know, being in the Bible Belt, it's the same way when you don't realize you're sort of internalizing all of this messaging that prevents you from really accepting yourself and being honest with yourself. That's another thing that I would try to, you know, avoid. I'm sorry, I keep saying, you know. I will get to a point where I'll quit saying it so repeatedly. It's one of those words that I just say. I don't really realize I say it, but I do say it pretty often. I'm going to try to really work on stopping on saying, you know, so much. So again, I apologize. I know everybody has said something about that. But like what I was mentioning, you really try to avoid anything like that. I I had like I've mentioned before, even when I was around family, I remember growing up, I'd had times where family would make some sort of negative remarks about gay people. And again, this was before, you know, when I was younger, in other words. And we don't realize that again, we absorb it, especially when you're younger, you're going to absorb it so much more because it's just, again, like younger people, we all take in that. We take in that. And that's why, you know, a lot of us, we hold a lot of trauma from when we're younger, like what I've mentioned, you know, about being bullied, excuse me, in high school, is that even when you're older, you still absorb that. You still have that ingrained into your memory because it was in such a time of growth and a time of, you know, trying to really discover yourself and coming into your own, you know, a coming of age at that time. So you're going through, you know, a lot of changes in your body. You're trying to figure yourself out. Again, I apologize. It's like hard to speak at certain points where uh, my cough will kind of take my breath away, and that's why that happens sometimes. But again, we internalize a lot of that, and we don't realize how much it builds and builds as we get older. So what I want to say is, too, a lot of the ways that we can overcome this really comes down to taking back the messaging, you know, taking back all of that negativity and again, shifting our focus, really reflecting on why, you know, again, there's sort of an ignorance when it comes to somebody who's gay, when we're all normal people. There's nothing really different about us at all. We just have a different set of attractions that doesn't align with the society that we live in. It just doesn't align with everybody else. And so that's why everybody treats it as being foreign. And I've done a lot of research. Ever since I struggled with my sexuality, I really was always, even growing up, and I think I've mentioned this before, you know, I don't want to rehash too much of what I mentioned before, but even when I was growing up, I used to always try to research a lot of different things when it comes to sexuality and understanding exactly where this comes from. And some of the videos and some of the, especially here recently, that I've looked into is that it's actually, when you look at, you know, homosexuality, I know I said, again, when you look at homosexuality, it's basically like what I've learned is that it is kind of a part of evolutionary design. And I know this is kind of separate to what I'm talking about, but this relates to sort of unraveling that internalized homophobia because you are understanding exactly that this is a natural part of being a human. It's of course not every human experiences it, but it is a natural part of our world. You know, it is a natural part of, you know, it's basically it's found in nature in a lot of ways. It's not something that's foreign that we treat as foreign. It's what has made it foreign, or what has made it seem like homosexuality is foreign, is because of a lot of religious beliefs that have been ingrained into society. And so that's where we get a lot of this negative messaging, is because it's rehashed, these constant, like when you think about the Bible, it's constantly rehashed of Bible verses, of these beliefs that have been really really come about by man itself. So that's where that's come from. But when you look at nature itself, there is so much variety in nature. And it is what I've learned. There's a lot of benefits that come with, if you look at like animals, there's, and when I've learned about like the evolutionary sort of concept of being gay, is that there is somewhat of a survival aspect when it comes to homosexuality, in that what I learned is that it's basically contributing to, you know, the design of life, in that basically, like when you look at, what I've learned is that in sort of the evolutionary design is that with homosexuality, it's basically sort of contributing to this difference in, like, when you have a straight sort of person or a straight animal, the homosexual one is there to be sort of a supporter. There's a supporter, even though, when you think about it, of course, gay people don't really have that much children. And so a they contribute to the family dynamic, and they add more of that support to the family dynamic, if this makes sense. I would have to explain it more in detail because I've done a lot of research on it. It's just hard to explain fully. But you made me wonder, why does this relate to internalized homophobia? Well, it does, because the reason being is that you're unraveling what this means. This is in a part of nature, it's natural. And so when you understand exactly this part of you, what it means, and that it's not something that you should be ashamed of or look down upon, again, it breaks apart that narrative that you have about yourself. It breaks everything apart, and you're like, okay, I'm just a normal human being. There's nothing different about me, even when society tries to tell me that I'm different. But I may share more about what I sort of researched and looked into. There's a few books that I've been trying to read too. I read a lot of history on, basically LGBT rights, a lot of history like with Stonewall and things like that. But I have been trying to look into some more of the deeper aspects of being gay, like as far as the nature and sort of the natural part of being gay, like as it relates to being a human, not necessarily history, but the why it is a part of the natural world, in other words. Again, I don't want to go too deep into it, but It's something that I would love to discuss further as I sort of research more. And I know it sounds weird. Why are you so into learning all this? Well, to me, I think it's important to understand, and I think again, it breaks apart that narrative when you understand exactly why this exists and why it's not it's not different. It's part of the natural world. It is going to bring more clarity to yourself, and is going to start eliminating those negative feelings that you have about yourself because you realize you're a normal human being, and what's made you feel bad about yourself is not yourself, but what has been taught to you, if that makes sense. So thank you guys once again for this time and again listening to what I have to say. I hope that I was able to be clear in this discussion, because I know that I sound really weird right now, but hopefully I'll be better within the next week and I'll sound clear when I discuss the next video. But I feel like I got some things across that I wanted to say, and I hope that it's something that you guys can think about. Again, I may share some links that you guys can sort of check out that discusses a little bit more on the natural aspects of homosexuality, and I think it will give you a little bit more insight on what it means. And again, I think it when you understand more of this part of yourself, it does make you feel so much more calmer and have a sense of peace and clarity in your heart and mind. So again, guys, if you found this helpful, feel free to leave a comment. I will try to find those links and share those with you on what I've researched. There's a lot of things I've read and tried to research, uh, and in some books I may try to share with you guys probably in the next video. But I would like to dive deeper into the topic of sort of evolution and homosexuality and how it connects, because there's a lot of connections with that, and it is a part of nature in a lot of ways. So thank you guys once again, and really take time to, again, turn those negative feelings you have about yourself into positive and encouraging thoughts. I will see you guys in the next video. Again, I try to upload these each and every Saturday and over the weekend, and I will have another video for you guys to discuss. But thank you guys for your time, and I really look forward to talking to you guys in the next one.